Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, dissidents, one and all. Pleasant good morning to everyone, wherever you're watching. We are live on YouTube, Rumble, Rockfin, Twitch, and Twitter. Wherever you are, like it if you can, share it if you can. 159 strong in the YouTube chat to start the show. 35 filing in over on Rumble. We need you to hit that like button in the morning. Because we need the algorithm's help for these morning shows. But thank you all very much for being here. We have a very special show today. We have a limited time today. That's why we're starting at 10 a.m. because my wife had to work and my kids are in school and they have to be picked up at 11:30. So that's why we are doing a special sort of hour and change show. We have a very special guest who is going to be joining us in just one moment. You all know who he is, Mr. Craig Pasta Jardula, who made a very, very special trip to Maui last weekend to report on the aftermath of the devastating wildfires there. And so here's a little video that he tweeted out upon his arrival.
Yo, what's up, everybody? I just got to Maui. You can see it behind me. That's Maui. And we're about to go to a meeting. A lot of stuff going on. Guys, I just want to say thank you so much for getting us here. I actually have a camera guy with me this time, so we should get some good footage. And just, pay attention to my Twitter feed for up-to-date information and news. And we're going to see what's going on over here. But I just want to say thank you to everybody once again who chipped in to help us get to Maui and do some good work. Hopefully we won't let you down. I don't think we will. But thanks again from the bottom of my heart, guys. Peace.
Well, he certainly did not let us down. He never does. It's a pleasure to introduce our great friend, Craig Pasta Jardula, host of the Convo Couch and now host of the Jimmy Dore Show, apparently, too. What's up, Pasta?
Doing a lot of work nowadays, and thank you for that great introduction. I just like to say off the bat here, and this is not me doing my Cornell West. This is me doing me. I really am a fan of your shows, guys. I know Russell's not here, and I can't break his chops. And I wish he was, but we'll get to that when we get a chance. But I'm a fan of the show. You guys are doing some great work over here. I had this marked on the calendar. I'm excited to do it today. And it's a good thing it's an early show because we're going to do an early show at Jimmy's today. I'm going to just do the first part of it. And we're going to have a good time over there. We're going to talk about Maui as well. But seriously, man, Keaton, great work you guys have been doing over here. And it's awesome. I think you guys gave some of the best analysis, on that Jimmy interview. Yeah, man, thanks for having me on to talk about Maui because it was a crazy, exciting trip. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for those kind words, my friend. Means a lot coming from you. And we will talk more about the Jimmy Cornell interview on Sunday. We recorded pretty much our raw takes. We were live at 8 that night, and that interview wrapped at about 7. So, we caught up on it as best we could and put out our raw first thoughts. But we'll have more on that on Sunday, and maybe we'll get to some of that towards the end of our time here this morning. But yeah, you've been doing great on the Jimmy Dore Show. I love the chemistry between you and Kurt and Jimmy. Like when they're on the sidelines peppering in the jokes, because you play a good straight man to their sort of joker. You know what I mean? Like the host of the show who keeps the show going, the structure of the show is always kind of the straight man. Like I'm the straight man here. because I say hello, I run the segments, and then Russell peppers in the commentary, and then we do takes. But the chemistry is really good to have two comics sort of pepper in those jokes, and you run it. It's really worked out great, so I'm happy for you because obviously that's great exposure for you, and I'm sure it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been an amazing time. You know, I was surprised when I got the opportunity, when he offered me the opportunity. I thought maybe he was going to ask me. I had a feeling he was going to ask me about something. And I think a lot of that had to do with the recent work I did with RFK and the Cornell West interview that I did that got buried by YouTube and the algorithm. But you know, I thought it was going to be like, hey, man, you want to kind of fill in where Kurt's on the road? But when he said, you know, hey, I think you've been doing some great work out there. How'd you like to fill in for me? You know, I was just shocked and awe. But then also, too, I felt, you know, vindicated from all the hard work I've been doing for such a long time. You know, we started off the Convo Couch as an experiment of sorts. Like, all right, this is our kind of our activism. We have something to say. Let's go out and say it. But I never thought it would be taken off the way it's taken off. And now I'm out of the restaurant business completely. You know, obviously Fee's doing a lot of her own thing. I'm doing a lot of my own thing. And the future looks kind of bright. It looks like I'll have a chance to do this to the day I die, like Larry King. And I'm very excited about that. But there's still a lot of work in front of me. You know, when I do the Jimmy Dore show, you know, I produce, you know, I come up with the stories. Of course, it's got to be, you know, okayed, and we talk about it. We kind of go over a plan. There's a lot of opinions coming in from all different angles. And, you know, that's one of the things, like when, you know, I was really surprised. I don't want to say surprised, but, you know, kind of like, you know, people don't realize, I think, Keaton, that people who don't do this, they think it's kind of easy. They don't understand the work that goes into doing the shows. Same thing we see over here. You know, Jimmy's always on. He's a lot like Fiorella, you know, my other business partner, never turned off, always on, always working, always thinking, always, you know, discussing, debating, collaborating. And that's why you get an amazing show from him. It's not just him personally, it's the work he does and the work his crew, Steph and all, that they put him into that show. So it's truly amazing to join their team. It's been one of the highlights of my life, and I'm just going to keep it rocking. I do it one show at a time. That's how I look at it. I look at it like I got a job for one show. If I nail it, if I do a good job, I get another show. And I do that to keep my head in the game. So that's where we're at with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, in our case, I know 75% of the work that goes into this show is deciding what to cover and what not to cover, because there's so many things you can cover. I know in our case, most of the work is just deciding what the topics are going to be, right? That in my case, at least, that's the lion's share of the effort.
That is the quagmire of figuring out what to talk about. You know, it's like, and sometimes it's so weird because mentally you look at something initially, you're like, I don't want to cover that. And then you see that people are talking about it, giving different opinions, and then you're just like, well, no way. And then you circle the wagons and let me bring that back into the folder. Let's talk about that. So, yeah, that is one of the tough parts. What do we cover?
That Harry Sisson breaking points debate, I think, oh, this is kind of interesting. Maybe we'll cover it. Maybe not. And then I see everybody's talking about it. I'm like, all right, guess we have to. So we did. So, but we got an important topic for today, far more important than any sort of gossip and drama on YouTube here. This is about your trip to Hawaii. So I'm going to use your Twitter thread as sort of the roadmap for the show here. So you put this out a couple days ago, what I learned from my time in Maui and Lahaina. This tweet thread should provide some clarity on the situation resulting from the Lahaina fire. This first tweet accompanied a video, so I'm just going to play this. Do you want to explain what this is? Because this...
These videos that I put in this tweet thread, like I said, there's a camera guy I brought with me, so he got the majority of the footage that we went and captured that we'll be putting out over the next couple weeks, little interviews here and there, and then eventually a little mini documentary series thing, not series, but just one good, nice one. But some of the people we met actually had photos and footage, and this was from a guy named David Mello, who owned a Round Table Pizza in Lahaina. He still does. He's been giving out pizzas. He lived on Front Street, and I asked him to say, hey, man, for my tweet thread, I just want to put some pictures in that, you know, haven't been seen before. You got any pictures you can send me? And he sent me about 20 pictures, some videos, some pictures. And this is the day of the fire. This is what he witnessed. You know what I'm saying? This is what he captured with his phone. So I just put these out here so people can understand and see what happened. Also the day after as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what compelled you to go out there? Because it was a pretty impromptu decision. I know you'd been talking a lot about it. There's been a lot of questions about the origin of the fire and about the response to the fire, which we'll get to in a minute because that's your next exhibit. But it seemed like you kind of decided last minute to just go out there and turn what could have been a long Labor Day weekend into this on the ground journalism trip, 1,000 miles off the West Coast.
Yeah, I think it's 2,500 miles off the West Coast, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's long. I was just guessing there.
Yeah, it's far out there.
It's pretty far out. It's the most remote island chain in the world, right?
Yeah, it is, and it's a 5.5 hour trip from LAX. But
so that's definitely 2,500 miles. Yeah.
There was two things that really made me go. Number one, I was doing a piece for OAN. They were actually talking to me about the Maui fires because they'd seen me do the work on Jimmy, and they wanted to have a discussion with me about it. And when I was having that discussion, I was like, and the person who was interviewing me said, well, you've been talking to people on the island. You've talked to people on the island. And something inside said, yeah, I have talked to people on the island. I have a great connection out there. I have a good friend out there who's keeping me plugged in, been living out there for like 10 years. But something clicked inside, said, maybe I have to go. You know what I'm saying? And then, just watching the mainstream media news, like clips on, what was going on, this kind of like attitude of theirs that it was already done. It was over. Like it was time to close up and go home. And that's not what I was seeing, from a lot of TikTok videos and Instagram videos. And those videos, a couple of those videos, you'd see them up there, that you go looking for them again and they're gone. So I felt like once again, there was some form of kind of like suppression from what these people were feeling that I felt just compelled to go. And I got to say, Keaton, and this is why I'm so thankful for Jimmy of giving his giant megaphone, because that's what the opportunity is with Jimmy. But with the way those people chipped in, the way my people chipped in, or whoever chipped in, was quite fascinating. It's not cheap to fly out a cameraman, pay him, do him work, even at a great rate that I got, because, guy's friend of mine. But it was just amazing, the whole experience. And, you were also saying what could have been a long Labor Day. I was tired, Keaton. My ass was dragging. Like I had to, 50 years old now, brother. I had to kick myself in the ass and like just go. It would have been a lot easier for me mentally and physically just to relax for the 4 or 5 days and recharge. But I was compelled to go, and I'm very thankful that I went, because when it is done, the little documentary, it's going to be some amazing footage. I did my due diligence. I did the hard work, and I got some great questions. I used my personality, my good look, and my charm to get into those spaces where, I don't think a lot of people have captured the actual trauma and what's going on in Lahaina.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I originally titled this stream that your trip was an act of citizen journalism, and then your colleague, Cheese Slice, kind of corrected me and said, well, he's not a citizen journalist, he's a professional journalist. And so I changed it, because he's actually right. That's a good point, because I don't think of commentators in our space as on the ground reporters, but in your case, you travel to Latin America, Cuba, right, and do all kinds of on the ground stuff. But how do you do that? So you land there, right? You don't have a press pass or anything. I was always intimidated by doing that kind of reporting, because maybe it's my insecurity, maybe it's my ADD. I just wouldn't know where to start. Okay, you land. Yeah. Where's the first place you go? You mentioned when you landed, you went to a meeting first. Where do you start gathering information?
Yeah. I mean, well, you know what? Because a lot of my time in Latin America is spent. And thank you for that comment, citizen journalist to professional journalism, because I think that's important nowadays, right? You just made me think, like, what makes them professional journalists? Because they work for a corporation that pays
Well, don't
them.
Thank me. Thank Jamie there, because he's the one who called me out for that. And he was right, so I changed it.
Cheese Slice, love that dude.
Yeah.
You know what? A lot of the work in Latin America, what me and Fiorella would always do was try to capture the kind of mood of the people, so we would just talk to everybody around us, a lot of Uber drivers, cab drivers, waiters, bartenders, that sort of thing. So that kind of has already been like ingrained in the whole Convo Couch style and what I do. I'm going to just go talk to the people. And, really, to tell you the truth, when I put my foot in my mouth and said I'm going to go, I really didn't even think about the fact that, can Morgan help me out and set me up? So I did have a friend there who's an activist who's involved in our field. He lives in our world, watches our shows, and he had known a lot of people. But what I said to myself is, I'm just going to get off the plane. I'm going to get on the ground. I'm going to go to those areas, and I'm just going to talk to the people. You know what I'm saying? And I was lucky to go into a community, event right off the plane. We got there halfway through the meeting, and we just started talking to people and started just going to work. And then we heard about these other mutual aid camps. We went in there very politely, with our cameras down and everything, and spoke to people, explained to them what we're doing, and then got some interviews. And then just follow the leads. And then when you're there on the ground, you meet some people. Like, who else can I talk to? You ask them, right? Well, you could talk to this person and that person. It's Maui, right? I think there's 200,000 people population on the whole that island. So I mean, it's a small town, but you just ask and you just speak, because you'll understand there's always people who will be willing to speak and always people who don't want to speak. But just getting, it's like the work we do here, Keaton. Just getting off your ass and doing it is like 90% of the battle. Just do it. Be consistent. Do the work. Get off the plane, go fly over there, get on the ground, talk to the people, find out what's what. Get to the bottom of things and just poke around, sniff around, and with God's grace or Buddha's grace or whoever you're praying to up there or down below, something good comes out of it.
All right, well, let's go to your next exhibit here. Tweet 1A, there's still a huge lack of transparency, plain and simple. The citizens of Lahaina don't deserve to be left in the dark. They need answers not only to find out why the fire started, but to see exactly what broke down during the time of the crisis so they can better prepare themselves in case of another fire to prevent any further loss of life. So let's take two topics one at a time. So go ahead. Without getting us kicked off YouTube, tell me how you think the fire started.
Well, that's interesting too, as well, because you'll hear a lot of different locals and indigenous people and the howlies, which are the white boys or the white girls, whatever. They all have different opinions about how it started. And you will hear all those things out there: space, laser, energy weapon, weather modification, natural disaster, climate change, all of them, electrical grid falling down, arsonist. You'll hear them all, right? This is something too, as well, Keaton, that my mind was set on. Like, we're going to hear a million ways till Tuesday on how this thing started, but what's the important thing right now? And like I said, you can argue till the cows come home on how it started, but what do we need to do now is the most important thing. And that's to expose the situations that these people are living in and provide them the help they need. So I still don't know how the fire started, but this is also important to understand too, as well. It doesn't make a difference in some cases, because the conditions that led up to the fire for years and years and years, the lack of water, the diverting of water from these areas in Hawaii to the locals and the indigenous people and the indigenous farmers to golf courses and to fancy areas with nice waterfalls and stuff is the issue itself, because they allowed those conditions to be created in which they can have this type of fire. There is some dude who told me, and they were arguing, like somebody was saying space laser, and this other dude was like, yeah, why would they need a space laser where they can just take a flare up there and drop it in the brush and it's gonna go? Like,
right, because the hydrants were running out, right? Firefighters had to go into buildings and risk their lives because there wasn't enough water. So there were disputes about the management of water, as you mentioned, going in, and then the water system basically collapsed pretty early on into the fighting of the fire, right?
Absolutely. That is something that was confirmed. A lot of our suspicions were confirmed. We did hear that there was police officers blocking people from getting out. We also heard that they were doing so because there was electrical lines down, even though the power had been out for days. We had heard that the people had been told the fire was contained, and then it wasn't contained. And then we were told that people didn't have water. And these were all confirmed from the people of Lahaina when we went there. The water turned out. And, we talked to an activist who's specifically concentrating on the water issue. She's not getting answers. Nobody's getting answers. They want to know how exactly that water went out and why there was no water there. And with the lack of transparency, a lot of the people are feeling that somebody turned it off.
So that was one sort of collapse in response. And then the other thing that we've heard a lot about is Herman Andaya, the state's top emergency management official, resigned after having failed to sound sirens as the fires approached. Now, he gave a very bizarre excuse, which is that if they sounded sirens, residents would have fled inland because typically alerts are in response to incoming tsunamis. I don't know if you saw Tulsi Gabbard on the Joe Rogan show, but she kind of dismantled that. She said when they send a tsunami alert, the tsunami is usually a few days out, right? Which means people don't immediately flee inland. That combined with the fact that there was obviously smoke in the air, it was pretty obvious that there was no tsunami coming, that the disaster was a fire. And actually, because of this collapsed response, you actually had people sheltering from the fire in the water because they're trapped on an island, the most remote island chain in the world. So can you talk a little bit more about why that alarm wasn't sent? I know you covered that a lot on the Jimmy Show as well.
Yeah. I mean, I can't dive into the mind of that dude who didn't sign it, because what he appears to say is actually just so false. If you just look at their website, it says on the website that there's all the reasons why these sirens could be sounded, including one of them, wildfire.
Right.
So that's what makes the situation so bizarre. And so another reason why I was scratching my head, where I got to go there and just find out what's going on, because the fact that he said no, it was because they're usually used for tsunamis. That's why I didn't sign that, sound them. So it just makes it very, very odd. I mean, obviously he's taking the fall for this. He's stepping down and moving along, but I don't know why. There's a reasons why, and this is why they need the transparency. There is a lack of transparency. The state, the local, the federal officials and government are not talking to these people, and these people are getting frustrated as can be. And they also are trying to figure out how these leaders are invested moving forward, because they all talk about, they all talk about the fact that they're getting nothing while Ukraine's getting everything. They all talk about the fact that there's been so much talk about 15-minute smart cities on that island, that Josh Green, Governor Green, you know what I'm saying? I don't even think a lot of people even knew that he was the keynote speaker for those 15-minute cities at the UN in New York. Like, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people don't know that, but some people do. And that's what makes this whole situation just very head-scratching and suspicious. It makes you feel, that this is some form of orchestrated gentrification to get these people out so they can get that land, meaning the elites.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, when they don't answer questions, that's how these theories spread, right? And then they bitch that people are spreading conspiracy theories. But if you don't want people to spread conspiracy theories, then answer their questions and be straightforward. So that leads us very well into the next exhibit here. Another area in which the people of Lahaina need full transparency is what and where their elected officials are invested in as far as global entities such as the UN and WEF, so they can combat any agenda that tries to unlawfully dictate their future. So this goes into what you were just talking about, gentrification, land grabbing. We saw reports on social media of people saying that real estate speculators were calling them in the days after their house and their whole property burnt to a crisp. Did you talk to anybody about that? What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, in that community meeting I showed up to, several people said, and I know there's people calling you trying to get your land. Don't let them. Let's fight. Let's stand here as a community together, and let's make sure they don't take our land away from us. And then a lot of people got into some of the way they lived in Lahaina. Simple people, simple life. Everybody knew everybody. They would sell stuff like fish and fruit on the streets, and you know what I'm saying. It was just one of those environments where it was very, very simple. And knowing that the fact that they hear about the fact that talking about 15-minute cities, and there was supposed to be another event that was supposed to be on the island of Maui, that they moved it to Honolulu coming up. And it's one of those sustainable, meetings. It's about sustainable living moving forward. So they're very well aware of what's surrounding them, what's been talked about, and they know these things. And that's why they're saying, don't sell. Don't let these venture capitalists come in. Don't let these vultures eat off the carcass. Let's hold together. Let's figure out what's going on. And, the true hardcore Lahaina people are digging their feet in, and they're not going to go away easy. I'll tell you that. These people have more guts than fish. They are strong. But, even still, Keaton, there's a lot of people who are not going to be able to deal with this. And, we've talked to people who said, yeah, my cousins already moved. They left the island. So, in some ways, whoever's behind this, has some form of success where they've already got some people to bolt and just leave, and not to mention that if a lot of people are not around or dead, and can't identify their property, what happens to that property after? The governor's also already said that he wants to purchase some of that property or have it, and he's making it look like we don't want people to come in here and take the land from these indigenous people and these locals, so we'll stand up for them. He's kind of using that front, but people are scratching their head and going, no, something doesn't smell right here.
Well, yeah, I mean, and this next part of it is very key in combating any sort of vulture capitalist effort because, look, whether you buy into theories that it was orchestrated from the beginning or not, I'm not going to go there, obviously, because I can't say that, obviously. But, the book, Naomi Klein, Shock Doctrine, talked all about disaster capitalism, how, after a disaster, big money swoops in and they build the place back together using their capital, which means it's their investment moving forward. And it seems to me like one of the organic ways to combat that is to bring business back to Maui. And this is something that you pointed out. You were ahead of the curve on this because you put this out a few days ago. Maui is open, and you put a video about this too. Despite Governor Green and Aquaman, who's Aquaman? Who is that a dig on?
That actor, the big dude from Hawaii.
He said it was closed. Jason Momoa.
Yeah. That's what people
I didn't know
said.
that.
Like,
Okay,
I
so
heard two locals, and this is like the day before I left. I was in a restaurant, and they were just screaming about him. Like, who the hell does he think he is? These were restaurant owners that were so pissed off. And yeah, so that's Aquaman.
Okay, so you picked a fight with Jason Momoa. See the balls on this guy. What'd I tell you? Telling people that Maui is closed, that is just not the case. I say this because 80% of the money that comes into Maui comes via tourism. It could be argued that much of a state's income shouldn't be dependent on tourism, but we have to be realistic and play the cards that have been dealt. Closing down Maui, or at the very least, having the appearance within the mainstream media that the island is closed, is devastating right now, even to the people on the opposite side of Lahaina. People need to know that that's just not the case. Maui is not closed. And that's important because, one of the things that I think causes people to panic and sell to BlackRock and Vanguard is the feeling that there is no future in this place anymore. And so I just have to cut my losses and leave. But the sooner things can get back to normal, the sooner those beaches can fill up again, the sooner people get some drinks in their hands and towels under their asses on the beach, the sooner people are going to start feeling better about their home, and they'll be more encouraged to stay. And you were ahead of the curve on this because it just came out in the New York Times reporting tourists were told to avoid Maui. Workers want them back. There have been workers that have been laid off. Hotel workers have been laid off without pay because of this. You probably rented a car when you were there, but here's a used car lot. This is pictured in the New York Times. Things just kind of grinded to a halt. That creates a lot of economic uncertainty, which makes it easier for the vulture capitalists to swoop in. And so what was your experience in terms of how happening was it? The message obviously hadn't gotten out there at the time you were there, it sounds like.
Yeah, because the first thing you think is that, they're going through a travesty. It's let's stay away. Let's not go there. These people need time to mourn, and you stay away. You cancel your trip. You rebook your ticket somewhere else, and you go somewhere else. But that's not the case that's needed for what's going on in Maui. 80% of the finances that come into Maui come via tourism. So they are so dependent on tourism. I mean, that's not just the hotels and those car lots, which, by the way, my round trip ticket was $200, less than $200.
Wow.
Direct into Hanukkah. I don't want to say it because I'll say it right. I got to say Kalui, I think is the name of the airport. To rent a car for 4 days, it was less than $200. It was just over $200 because donkey me, I didn't put a quarter tank of gas before I dropped it off. So it's dirt cheap, and you see all those cars out there. The only thing that was a little pricey was the hotel rooms or the Airbnbs, because a lot of those are being taken up by some of the citizens and by the disaster relief workers that are there. But if you can still get an Airbnb for several days where you only have to pay the cleaning fee once, we were jumping around from spot to spot, and that's how Airbnb does. Airbnb is not good to jump around, but if you get a 3-day Airbnb, you can go. And I would suggest that people do that. Because it's not just about the hotel workers and the corporations. And I told people, go spend your money in the local businesses. The guy who cuts coconuts, my friend, he would sell so many coconuts one day on a holiday. And then now that particular holiday, he's lucky to sell 10% of what he's going to sell. Some people were saying businesses are down 99%. I don't know, that's over the top and being a little dramatic maybe, but businesses are down because that governor and a lot of the other people made this impression that Maui's closed. No, they're dependent on tourism. If you want to help them out, the first things first, we got to keep them there. They leave the island, they leave their property, they turn their backs, it's gone.
Exactly.
Game over. Because that property, to get it back or to go rent back there, is going to be tough. You got to keep them there. We got to give them the direct money, resources, and needs they need right now. That's the most important thing, and that's via tourism. That's via money. So that's what we got to do.
All right. So after 9/11, when George W. Bush said the best way to combat this is to go to the mall, in this case, it's actually true. You have to got to get out there and try to have a good time. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That makes total sense.
I thought the same thing, Keaton. I swear to God, I thought the same thing. Like, people were telling, go buy something. W said, and like in the same case, go on vacation stuff. But, there's one dude who went there. He went to this local restaurant and he bought $100 gift cards for that restaurant, and he went and passed them out to the people of Lahaina who need them. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, it's beautiful. That's great.
So, yeah.
Yeah, because this next question has to do with the people of Maui. The people of Maui are leaders in how a community should pull together in a time of crisis. I've witnessed other collective communities pull together to defeat a common enemy or obtain a common goal, but never before have I seen anything like what I witnessed in Lahaina. The locals pulled together despite national organizations and the government dragging their feet, and gave directly to their neighbors with the basic resources and requirements that it takes to stop the bleeding. However, for these heroes, their stories have only just begun to be written. It is early right now, and a lot will change over the next several months and years as they will have to deal with the disaster that changed their lives. So this is obviously the big question. What is the people's attitude towards the response? Because mainstream media would have you believe that they're grateful for all that Biden has done for them. But we've seen the videos surface on social media, Twitter or TikTok, of people saying the exact opposite. You also mentioned earlier, obviously, which we knew, there's a lot of outrage about the funds that are going to Ukraine, while these people got $700 per household, not per person, per household. And so what, in your experience in the conversations you had, was the reaction towards the federal response to this?
Yeah. If anybody's sitting there, Harry Sisson, right? He's telling you that the people are happy and they're awesome. Like, no, that's just not the case. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are people that, a very few, the majority of the people are not trustworthy of their government. They are not happy. A lot of people mentioned Ukraine, even when they were doing that speech at the local community meeting, people had mentioned it and stuff like that, so they understand, it's a slap in the face. And also the red tape that's there, just imagine, Keaton, you're leaving your house, right? And you go to work, and when you try to go back, you never can go back ever again. You never see it. It's burnt down. That's all you know. That's your place of, that's your livelihood. That's where you live. And now it's all gone. And there's all this red tape getting in the way, and you don't get what you need. The basic necessities. You don't know where you're going to go. You're trying to figure it out. And you're just getting red tape and a bunch of guff from FEMA or the Red Cross. So who do you depend on? You depend on your neighbors. And holy shit, I've never seen anything like this. And I say it, the indigenous, the locals, the haoles, all of them coming together despite any of their political beliefs and, forming these mutual aid camps. I went to 2 of them. And I was just blown away. But at the same time, the people working these camps, they're dealing with a lot of trauma. They're dealing with a ton of trauma. And some of the people that I met that are working at these mutual aid camps have thrusted themselves into the aid process of just helping people, almost like kind of putting their trauma, masking it away to deal with another day. And that's why I'm saying that even though I was there 3 weeks after the fire, I'm still early. People aren't ready to talk. They're not ready to share their experiences. There's people who lost, loved ones, family members, businesses, houses, the whole 9 yards, and they're not ready to speak yet. So yeah, it is just truly amazing the way they're pulled together. But I've been around enough to know that they're not going to be allowed to operate these mutual aid camps that are run by the locals. The government's going to eventually come in and pull their plug, and that's the sad part. And I know they're not thinking about that right now.
What makes
right
you
now,
say that? I'm just. Well, what makes you
because
think
it's
that?
always like that. It's always like that. I don't know if it's a ego thing from the other companies, like the Red Cross or FEMA, who's saying that's our job. We're supposed to do that. But they'll always want elected officials to do those sort of things, especially when you're handing out food, right? They'll always say that's not healthy. We have to go through health department standards and stuff. And I was in Echo Park when the community pulled together to live there during the COVID situation. Eventually, they had to go. So the cops came in, removed everybody, and kicked them out. So, and I've heard some echoes at one of the mutual aid places that they're already starting to get messed with a little bit. Now, I don't say that to discourage these people because they still got some time there and they're going to be there for a while, right? So we can help them right now. And that is the best way to help the people of Lahaina, to help the people of Maui, is get the money to these guys. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to be sharing their links. I shared one the other day. They got, Give Send Goes and PayPals and GoFundMe's, Venmos and the whole 9 yards. It's still the best, most effective way to make sure that the people get, money right to the heart of the people of Lahaina. But at the end of the day, I'm fearful that, it's a park, right? And when the real estate people come in and they bought everything up, or the community wants to get going, they're going to say, you have to start closing down these parks. You know what I'm saying? That's just the way it goes. I don't know how long they're going to be able to last for, but I know from my time and my history out in the field that eventually the local and state officials will try to eventually close them down and do it themselves. The Red Cross has got this handled. You guys can finish up. We got this from here, And the sad part, and this is why I do have to go back out there, is because what do those people do then? Just think about it. You lost everything. You thrust yourself into this. All you know now, and you do this for several months. How do you pick up the pieces from there? How do you move on? That's got to be documented. There's a lot that hasn't unfolded yet in Lahaina.
Yeah. Chat, by the way, he's out. I bounced him. Sorry. I'm a one-man crew. I don't have Russ and I don't have Jake here for the morning shows, but sorry about that. Anyway, because the thing that is and by the way, we will take super chats at the end. Like I said, I'm on limited time this morning, so I don't want to take them in between, but we will take them at the end. So if you have them, ask them for sure. Because it was very, very strange regarding that, because you saw in the immediate aftermath, Barack Obama tweet out that people should donate to the Red Cross. And then people piled on that tweet saying, well, the Red Cross has a history of wasting the money, right? And he didn't officially respond to that tweet, but he put out another tweet, I think it was the next day, which was clearly a response to the feedback he got with some other organizations, other mutual aid organizations that you could donate to directly. So it's clearly catching on, even in mainstream circles, that a lot of these mutual aid organizations are not as trustworthy as they led on. I'm talking about the Red Cross. I'm not talking about the ones that you're suggesting here, because you say the citizens of Maui, specifically Lahaina, are dealing with an incredible amount of trauma. For some, they haven't even mentally processed it yet. They're not ready to talk about it, especially on camera. Some people who have lost loved ones, homes, and businesses have thrusted themselves into the relief process, aiding others, while meanwhile burying the trauma away from their consciousness, only to be dealt with down the road. You can see it in their faces. These people have been hurt in a deep, dark way. And then in your next thread where you talk about solutions, you talk about donating directly to on-the-ground organizations that are more reputable than some of the ones that we're usually told to donate to. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I do want to say that, too, as well, is that if there's been any positive feedback from any type of disaster relief NGO or federal group or state group, it has been the Red Cross. Like I have heard some positive stories that they were set up at the Hyatt and they were able to cut some checks and give some people some money help right away. So I do want to say that it's not a complete disaster if you've donated to the Red Cross. I'm sure there's a lot of bureaucracy and, some money that might go here, money might go there and stuff. But that is the whole thing, why I say you have to donate directly to the people, because these people have nothing. They're not doing it for money. You can see it. They're doing it. And as soon as the money's coming in, they're finding what they need to buy. They're getting the supplies and they're getting it right to the hands of the people. It's just much more of a human element when it comes to these local groups. And, like I said, I was blown away by what they're doing. And they're also a little bit sketched out. People have come in and exploited them. They don't want them there. The majority of the people are so thankful that they're there. But I'm sure there's elected officials, like I said, that will be like, well, they can do this for a little while, but it's a beach park. Eventually, they got to go. You know what I'm saying? Once we have to go on with our lives. And that's the whole thing. Eventually, Red Cross, that has done some decent amount of work over there, is going to cut ties and go. It's going to be time to go home. FEMA, I mean, I don't even know what FEMA's doing anyways out there. I have no clue. I didn't see much
you're not
of
even
them
seeing
or heard
that part of
much
the
them.
conversation.
Yeah.
That's what's so crazy about this. I talked about this a little bit in our initial reaction to this. It's just, you cover Empire a lot on your show. We talk about it as much as we can here, which kind of distinguishes shows like ours from others in this space who, focus more on domestic issues. But when you look at the might of the American empire, the might of the American military, how quickly we can execute a military operation anywhere in the world, to think that we couldn't get cruise ships and airplanes in there to get people out of there who needed to get out, right, in the immediate aftermath. I mean, if people are sheltering in the water, that means they need to be evacuated, right, at least in the immediate aftermath. And then we obviously want them to return and rebuild. We don't want that to become Vanguard Island, right? But it's just, I mean, in your conversations with people, I know there's been a lot of talk about the outrage over, Ukraine getting all this money and them not getting nearly as much. Did you have any conversations with people specifically about that in regards to just like the pace of the government response, the fact that FEMA is really not even being talked about? I feel like post Katrina, we don't even consider that a viable organization anymore.
Yeah, I know, right? And you hit it on the nose, Katrina, right? And that's also another thing that was kind of in the back of my mind when I was making the decision to go. Like all of a sudden, once the rescue operation was done, the mainstream media closed up and moved on, right? Like they didn't tell the story about, wait, what's going on? What's going on with the aftermath? But yeah, I mean, this is what I'm telling you too, as well, is like they want answers. They're like, the military, there's a base right over there. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's going on over here? Like they are so confused about how the emergency response during the crisis, how it was just a big failure, how they got no help from nowhere. They understand. They know there's a military bases right around the corner. They were like, where are they at? They're right over here. They could have been mobilized and got our asses in here right away. But, Keaton, they didn't even get a warning that there was a fire. So, I mean, it's just like this shit hit so hard. And now they're still kind of like doing this stuff and going, what happened? Oh, my God. My whole life is turned upside down. And like I said, another thing that they're very insulted about, the majority of people, by the way, is the fact that they feel that the government and the mainstream media is downplaying the number of lives that have been lost. When they say missing, it's not like they ran off and they're hiding in the water or hiding in the woods. It means they haven't been identified yet. So now I think they're using the term, what's the term they use instead of missing? Unaccounted for. Is now they've moved for, more than likely they're dead. But that number is being downplayed so much, and the citizens say that, so this was just an overall from every single angle, no sirens, big winds, electricity issues, no water, cops blocking people in. It was just an awful fumble. And I think that, once again, that the reason why the people of Lahaina want answers is because they don't want you to just plead ignorance anymore. You know what I'm saying? They want to know if there's something nefarious going on, and that's the way they feel.
Yeah, I mean, who could blame them? $700 per household. Now, the population of Maui is about 168,000 people, which means if they gave $700 per person, the overall bill for that direct relief would have been a little over $100 million. And yet Ukraine's got $115 billion, literally 1,000 times that. Yeah. And that's not even 1,000 times because they're not giving $700 per person. They're giving $700 per household. I mean, when you just look at we just take a step back and look at just basic common sense, it's just absolutely outrageous what people have been conditioned to put up with in this country. The incompetence that they are just forced to stomach when we see as brutal as this empire is, it's not incompetent. When we want to get a fighter jet anywhere in the world, we can do it within a couple hours.
Yeah. And they know that in Lahaina too, as well. I mean, they know it. And one of my favorite memes is it was a lady saying, "Welcome to Hawaii," and then there's a Ukrainian flag in the ground. Said, "Can we get some of that relief money?" You know what I'm saying? This is known, and we do talk about empire a lot. I know you guys dabble and get in there too as well. But what's the solution? I mean, what do we do to wake people up? I mean, how many situations? And that's why when you go to Lahaina and you see that, and you're like, geez, all these people, all those resources and money that's spent on Ukraine, if just a little tinker of that was spent over here, how many more lives could have been saved? And it's almost comical at this point that the citizens put up with it left and right. That's what I'm saying. If you ever went and you saw the people of Lahaina and you look them in the eyes, and a lot of them can't look people in the eyes right now. They're dealing with some serious trauma. You might change your tune a little bit, but it's something that we have to point out. It's something that we should point out. But what do? We have our elected officials for 5% of our budget, and no American lives are done. And then Dick Blumenthal going, it's only 3.5% of our budget. I mean, these people are crazy. And then you got Dick Blumenthal, Lindsey Graham, and Elizabeth Warren in Ukraine while people are suffering and dying and losing everything in Lahaina. Just mind-blowing.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly feels like we're in that stage of imperial decline where this kind of response is not, I shouldn't say accepted, but it's anticipated, right? I feel like the people just don't expect any better from the government now. As much as Bill Clinton, we talk a lot on this show about how horrible a president and a man he is, and how his legacy is a large part of what has put us where we are now. Bill Clinton was a workhorse. He was not a lazy man. Bill Clinton would not have slept until there was some response orchestrated in the aftermath of an event like this. So even that basic competency of a corrupt liberal bureaucracy is not there anymore. There's no longer the expectation that it's there anymore. That's how far we've fallen, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't want to. No, you're on YouTube. Never mind. I was going to say something about elections, but
We'll keep our powder dry for now. Let's take some super chats.
I get you in trouble, man. I get you in trouble. Yeah.
Well, I got to say, you're an inspiration because you've been screwed over by these platforms, as much as anybody, and you've kept on keeping on, and that does inspire the rest of us to keep going. So I just want to say that. Willie Bragg Show. Thanks, Willie. Thanks for the $5. Pasta, feel free to respond to any of these. I'm going to kind of go through these, and if you want to respond to them, feel free, obviously. What an offense it is for USA to do next to nothing for the victims of Maui, yet billions get sent to fund the racist right wing. In Ukraine. Yes, Willie, thank you very much. You were first in here today. Courtney says, Pasta rocks. Thanks for the $10. It's never the ism. It's those above the systems that are ruling it that can manipulate it either way, whether it be communism, socialism, capitalism. It doesn't make a difference. Yeah. You got a response to that one?
She might have got that, that's my line. It's never the ism. It's always those who sit above them. The only ism that we really need to be concerned about is elitism, right? Like the ruling class, the authoritarian ways in which they push throughout any type of government. So I love this line, and I can tell you, Courtney, you're my type of people. I'm right there with you, Courtney. Thank you. So true.
Beautiful. Thank you, Courtney. Pat Donahue, Russell showing some commitment doing shows while on holiday from Italy. Some guy. Well, he's not doing this one because he can't do the morning ones because the morning ones are at like 3 p.m. over there. So that's right in the middle of his day. So he'd have to give up an entire day there to do the show, which he can't do. But he does wake up in the middle of the night and signs on for the evening ones. He was on at 2 a.m. his time last time and put in a full 3 hours. So thank you, Mr. Donahue. Spade 2187, thanks for the $4.99. Hey fellas, did you happen to see the Vanguard saying Dr. West destroyed Jimmy? I did not see that one. No, I must have missed that episode. Damn. I got to go back and watch it first thing.
Maybe we should do a special screening of it tonight and watch it together. You know, and
Yeah, exactly.
Vanguard.
Exactly.
Okay, they still have a show. Okay, got it.
Yep, still on, still going. But no, I did not see that one to answer your question, sir. Thank you for the donation.
Way, I
Go
told
ahead.
before the show, guys, go watch Due Dissidence's breakdown, initial reaction. I know you're going to do more on Sunday, but I still think it was the better, one of the best analysis because you guys had it on the nose, and it kind of explains the frustration coming from me, coming from Jimmy on what's going on. I wanted Dr. Cornel West to have an awesome campaign, and you can say what you want about Nick Brana and the People's Party, and they don't have ballot access. But I wish they would have found a way to maybe work together with the Green Party in which Nick could have still had some control over Dr. Cornel West's campaign. He delivered more of a populist message. And I know Nick has showed up at Defeat the Mandates and through the Rage Against the War Machine. And like I said, you can say what you want about him. But his campaign, the way they did the video right out of the gate, they seem to have much more of a chance than since he's kind of like Dr. Cornel West is, since he's matriculated to this Green Party apparatus that is just has no populist message. It doesn't reach across the other side of the aisle, and it's leaving him dead in the water. It's frustrating on seeing what Dr. Cornel West is doing because he's almost like he's campaigning for Joe Biden. You can see it. I'm after that interview, I'm almost a believer that he's going to drop out before the election and tell people to vote for Biden again. I really am almost convinced of that because I can't believe he's digging his heels in even more, to make this point that Donald Trump is such much more of a greater threat than Joe Biden. The elements of fascism, that's just ridiculous. The elements of fascism. I mean, does he not know that we're almost, in World War III over here with a proxy war with Russia? And that's why I said, I remember you guys analyzed my video with Dr. Cornel West, and I told him right out of the gate, what I'm saying? And you don't have to go vote for Donald Trump, but it's okay to admit, in my personal opinion, that Donald Trump is better than Joe Biden. There's so much more things that are worse now under Joe Biden that were there under Donald Trump. And it might take balls to say that, whatever, but it should be said sometimes. And he shouldn't be playing that card. He should be playing the card. They're both awful equally. That's why you vote for me. He's actually giving people the reason to go vote for Joe Biden.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give a quick response to that, and that's all we're going to have time to get into this on this stream because we have some more super chats to read. But I noticed I thought a lot after I watched it. We came on, we gave our raw takes because we had a show planned anyway, and now that I've watched the whole thing for real, I've actually sat down and watched it, didn't have it in one earbud, washing dishes in the other ear. You know what I mean? I would say when you look at the Anderson Cooper interview and you look at how passive he was and how unwilling he was to sort of pick a fight with Anderson Cooper, despite all of the vile shit that Anderson Cooper was saying. And then you look at his posture with Jimmy. Look at how much more combative he was when he was being critiqued from a left point of view. And that's worrisome. That's a red flag because what it says to me is that he cares more about being accepted in CNN circles than he does in these circles. And that's worrisome. Like I said, I could talk for 2 hours.
By the way.
What's that?
He cares about, what, it's funny. I thought he cared about more about being accepted in his Green Party progressive shit lib echo chamber.
Well, I said that in my take, if you recall. I suspect that a lot of people in the Greens don't like Jimmy because he's a controversial figure on the left for, many reasons, whatever people think about that. And there are a lot of, lib-adjacent leftists in the Green Party who probably don't like Jimmy Dore and probably didn't like the fact that he was going on the show and probably wanted Cornel to prove to that diehard Green Party base that he wasn't going to give Jimmy an easy time. That's what it looked like to me, and I said that in my first take there. But yeah, I'd love to talk to you more about that. I mean, that's going to be a topic of conversation for many weeks, if not many months to come. Jimmy has a way of creating big moments in this space. This was one of them, just like Force the Vote was one of them, right? He creates these big debates. That's why people call him divisive. They call him divisive because he forces important conversations. And when you force important conversations, you're going to get called divisive because in important conversation, you're going to have heated opinions on both sides. And so that's why he has the reputation he has. But in this case, look, it's necessary. I mean, if we see Dr. Cornel West as a vehicle to create a new movement, then it's important we get straight on what terms we're building that. And so that's why it's important to have these conversations now. Absolutely. All right, I want to get to all these before I got to go because I have a no bullshit hard out at 11:15 because my kid's school closes at 11:30, so I cannot be late. And my wife is probably monitoring this from her office. If I'm on here a minute past 11:15, she's gonna call me on the air and tell me to get the fuck off. So that's good. Pete Sweet, thanks for the $5. Cheers from Bali. Agree with Keaton. Great chemistry with Pasta, letting Jimmy commentate and crack jokes with Kurt. Beautiful. So Jimmy's not going to be there this afternoon, right? Because he's on the road.
That's why we're doing an early show. So I'm gonna jump in, do my Maui stuff, and then kind of get on out and let Jimmy kind of finish it on up. He's got a lot of shows on the road, so he's decided to do the show early today, so he can get in for a little bit, So he will definitely be there. I thought I was going to do the 1:00 show and he'd be gone, but we made a little change of plans, so he will be there today as well. So.
Beautiful. All right, I got TD over on Rockfin saying Pasta always doing things for the right reasons. Sorry, I'm a one-man show today, so I can't put this on the screen, but I'll read it. Lahaina, indigenous wisdom and practices, keepers of profound knowledge, value system, produce for others to share. Solidarity, the people that breathe aloha into the world, love going out, love coming back, taking care of each other. They fear love because love creates a world they can't control. Lahaina Maui, testament to people power. Pasta 2, thank you for this interview. Well, thank you, TD, and thank you for those kind words. That's very moving. You, amen. Abiding 71, thanks for the 99-cent super sticker, my man. Saul, thanks for the $10. We appreciate that. Thank you guys very much for these donations. We appreciate it. DC, Billy Joel did Maui. Motherfucker thinks he can deflect. Yeah, we'll have to look into that. Thank you, sir. Left Less, thanks for the $10. Ralph Nader interviewed 2021, a man in Maui with a success story. The people took over the city council and were building affordable housing, fighting the corporate agenda. Odd timing. EP archives, check it out. Do you know anything about that, Pasta?
Well, yeah, I did talk to an activist who said in 2018 they started getting some more people into their city councils and their local officials and stuff. So there's been plans by activists to get more of the people involved. I don't know the inner workings of the politics, if any of them have been bought off, have changed and whatnot, but they were making more of a push to get more of the locals and indigenous in those seats. So it is kind of odd, but I mean, still, from coming all the way up from the top, you still got a lot of those kind of establishment goons driving the car. So there has been a push from activists to get people in, but I don't know the exact impact. I haven't gotten into it enough, but I have heard that from actually one of the people we interviewed about how they were trying to infiltrate the legislation. So there has been a movement, but obviously with this going on, we don't know, what's going to come of it. But yeah, I have heard.
Excellent. Folks, you could support the show by going to patreon.com/do dissidents. That is what makes these shows possible. So thank you very much to all of our supporters. You get your name up in lights on the credits of the show. Call-in access to most of these streams. Couldn't do calls today because I have limited time, obviously. And you also get 2 exclusive streams per month, which we do on Rumble as uncensored streams exclusively for Patreon members and paid Substack subscribers. We'll keep plugging along here. Dave Dillerai, thank you, my friend. Keaton, they have to do that. It undermines faith in the government's ability to do good while screwing people and making dollars available to the proper class of people. Class war is savage, constant, and one-sided. Yes, I agree. Kid Ulysses became a member. Thank you. We appreciate that very much, my friend. Appreciate the support from everybody. DC, thanks for the $5. Mutual aid is libertarian socialism in action. We don't need no stinking government. Read Kropotkin. Pasta, yes. You're generally a man of the left, but what are have your attitudes evolved towards any of that in terms of state power versus just mutual aid, organizing, things like that?
I kind of align a lot with DC. I know him. I've had conversations with him and talked to him for quite some time because he's a gentleman who tried to start the socialist caucus within the Libertarian Party. And I kind of look at myself as a leftist libertarian. I believe in some form of a mixed economy. I believe if we have free and fair elections, then we can get the representatives that we need. But I've been to countries before where I've witnessed people like in Cuba where I can see and sense that they wanted to own their own businesses. They wanted to have control of it. So I think we have to have a nice mixture there. I believe providing infrastructure, healthcare, education should be done by the state with a fair election system. And we have to have that mechanism where we can remove the people from power who are not doing the job, and we can put people in power who are capable of doing the job. But I do see the value in people having their own establishments and running it their way and doing their own thing. So I like to see a mixture of two, but I do believe that we should create a bottom floor where nobody does slip through the cracks. We have enough food over here. We have enough mindset. We have enough to make sure that the bottom, the people who are on the very bottom, are not left behind, and they have at least the basic needs to lead a decent standard of life. So, I haven't put my finger on it quite yet. There are some areas there I like to explore, but I consider myself to be a leftist libertarian. That's why I think the dude who's kind of running for the Libertarian Party, one of the ex-vice chairs, I don't think he was very fond of what Daniel was trying to do, DC was trying to do, and start that caucus. So I kind of have my feelings towards him, because we need to have an open tent. And by the way, I think RFK should run as Libertarian. Just want to throw that out there.
Yeah. We could talk about that a lot more. New Yorkers, morning, boys. Extra bullet. Thanks for the $2. Appreciate that. DC, thanks for the $5. Dr. West playing the role of Captain Save-A-Joe. There's a phrase for this. Controlled opposition. Pasta knows what I'm talking about. Yeah, Pasta knows what you're talking about there. But DC also says, P.S. RFK sucks too. Sorry, Pasta. Listen, you're going to get me divorced with that shit, because I have 9 minutes. And if we get Pasta going on that, it's over for me. I'm going to be, I'm home alone for the first time in years, because my kids are in school and my wife is working. So I'm home alone for the first time in years. It's kind of weird. My dog was very confused. She was giving me the sad puppy eyes because she's got no one else to hang out with. And I have to lock myself in this room because my cats, if they come in here, they'll chew through the Ethernet cable. That's what they do. They destroy electronic equipment. So, but thank you, DC. And actually, I would love to talk with you, Pasta, more about all this stuff, whether it's Jimmy and Cornell or RFK, because he did say that he was exploring alternative options recently, as I understand, because the DNC is trying to pull some shit with Iowa and New Hampshire delegates and things. I don't know if that means he's going to campaign in other early states or if that means he's exploring third-party runs, but a conversation for another time, obviously, but one that will definitely flag. Martin R., thank you for the $19.99. That is very kind of you. We appreciate that very much. Bubbles, thanks for the $10. The Green Party is not and has never has been a serious political party. I remember the 2020 election. They barely updated their socials, for example. They exist to grift. I've said this about the Green Party a lot. People said, because I was excited for Cornell's run, we kind of got a reputation for being Green Party stands. Not the case at all. One of the reasons I was originally excited about the People's Party before everything happened with them is precisely because I thought the Greens had had decades to establish themselves as a serious party and had failed. Pasta mentioned Nick. Again, for everything you want to say about Nick and the People's Party as an organization, it's an organization that I started out endorsing. They listed me as an endorser on their website. I can no longer call myself one. But his political instincts are good because he has that populist message that confuse elements of the left and the right while not caving on critical, issues of civil rights and things like that. And that's key. That's key. And so I think the Greens obviously have a long way to go in terms of correcting course, and they don't seem willing to. They never have. My father did some volunteer work with the Green Party. He said what everybody says about them who has come and gone, which is they're extremely stubborn, extremely narrow-minded, and extremely insular, which on the left, what else is new, right?
Yeah. But they do have elements within that party. Really quickly, I'll be brief. They do have elements within that party that do carry more of a populist message. There are groups that have split off from doing their own thing right now because they weren't crazy about the current managerial structure within that Green Party. So Dr. Cornel West could have come in with his populist message, and he would have still had supporters like the Black Caucus and there's other groups, the Emerald Group out west, you know what I'm saying, the policy wonks in Florida. There was other groups out there that he could have, you know what I'm saying, got a hold of and took control of the Green Party. It's a shame he's not doing it and going with this bullshit woke base part of it. So
Clove Coast, thanks for the $4.99. RFK Jr. is the GOAT, #1 pick for 2024. He needs to run on the Libertarian Party. There we go. End on a good note for our friend Craig Pasta Jardula. Pasta, such a pleasure having you this morning. Thank you so much for making the time. I know you've been extremely busy doing great work. Tell people where they can find you and support you. I know you're on Jimmy's show later, but you got your own projects going, so make sure you get your plugs in before we say goodbye.
yeah, and thank you so much for having me on. I was really excited about this today. I'm a fan. I've said it before. Do Dissidents. Please go, guys, subscribe, share this information, share this channel. So that's that. But for me, I'm going to be doing a little bit of everything. Yes, I'll be doing a lot of Jimmy Dore fill-ins as he is going on tour and has a lot of shows coming up. So I'll be filling in for that. Me and Fiorella, we're going to try to go more on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but things are getting really rocky and crazy with the schedule with her at RT and me over here on the West Coast. The time differences are really tough. So I have my extra channel that I really haven't been plugging that much, but I'm going to plug a lot more moving forward. Craig Pasta Jardula. Please go over there, subscribe to it. I'll be putting up some extra content over there, some content from Hawaii, some content from RFK or Cornel West. I'm going to kind of start growing my other YouTube channel, and hopefully they won't sack me and take me down over there. So I'm going to walk gingerly so I don't piss off too many people. But that's my
be nice,
new
be
YouTube.
positive, don't be harmful.
I'm gonna that's my new YouTube over there. So if you guys go over there at YoPasta on Twitter, and thank you for everybody for your support. And I'm gonna continue to do what I do as long as you guys put me in the field to play to do so. Thank you.
Craig Pasta Jardula, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much. Appreciate
Thank you, brother.
Bye-bye. Folks, thank you very much for watching this morning. We will be back here Sunday night with Russell Dobular live from the beautiful city of Rome. Thank you guys very much for being here. Thank you to Craig Pasta Jardula for joining. You can support the show at patreon.com/DoDissidents or DoDissidents.substack.com. Thank you so much for being here this morning. I gotta run. We'll see you next time. Thanks again. Bye-bye. Courage.
Please clap.